Good evening, all. Myself, Dr. Abhishek Tiwari. Today, we are going to discuss GATE 2020 question paper, and we will be discussing last 30 questions of this paper, as we have already discussed the previous 35 questions. So, question number 26 is in the edge dislocation configuration given in the figure. Dislocation X and dislocation Y are fixed and separated by a distance 2h on same slip plane. Dislocation Z is free to glide on a parallel slip plane. The two slip planes are separated by a distance h. Which one of the following statement is true regarding stability of dislocation Z at positions 1, 2, 3? So x and y are located here at a distance 2h from each other, and z is here in the middle and at a height h. So 1, 2, 3, these are the positions. So if it is at position 1, so force due to x, since these are positive axis locations, so the force will be away from this, so in this direction at 45 degree, and on z due to y in this direction, so the net force will be in the positive y direction, and there will not be any force in x direction. So since it is gliding in only in x direction, so and in x direction the force is 0, so it is equilibrium, but it is unstable equilibrium, because for position other than 1 and 2 there is a force in x direction, and in position 2 there is a force on z due to x in this direction, and force on z due to y in this direction. So there is a force in x and y direction, so it is unstable situation. And similarly here for position 3 it is also unstable. So we have option A, unstable equilibrium, then position 2 is unstable, and position 3 is also unstable. Which one of the following, question number 27, which one of the following dislocation reactions is not feasible in a FCC crystal? So for dislocation to be feasible, actually the initial energy should be greater than final energy, because there should be decrement in energy, delta G should be negative. Okay, and vector addition should satisfy the condition, like vector addition of the product and vector addition of the reactant should be equal. So for example, for A, V1 is equal to V2 plus V3. This vector addition is feasible, and V1 square is 1 plus 1 upon 4. This is 1 by 2, and V2 square plus V3 square. So this is like 6 by 36, and this is 6 by 36. So this will be equal to 12 by 36 equal to 1 by 3. So B1 square is greater than B2 square plus B3 square. So this is also feasible. And option B, V1 plus V2 is equal to V3, and V1 square plus V2 square comes out to be less than V3 square. So this is not feasible. So in question we have been asked about non-feasible dislocation reaction. So option B is the correct answer. Question number 38. A galvanic cell is formed by connecting Zn, EZn2 plus Zn 0 is equal to minus 0.76 volt, and E naught Fe2 plus by Fe is equal to minus 0.44 volt. Wires immersed in their respective ion solutions, the cell discharges spontaneously with a voltage of 0.5 volt. The ratio of concentration of Fe2 plus to Zn2 plus ions in the cell is of order of. So in the question we have been given E naught Zn2 plus Zn is equal to minus 0.76 volt, E naught Fe2 plus by Fe is equal to minus 0.44 volt, and Zn has more electronegative reduction potential, so Zn will reduce and Fe will oxidize. So Zn plus Fe2 plus giving you Zn2 plus Fe. Now Nernst equation E cell will be equal to E naught Fe2 plus by Fe minus E naught Zn2 plus by Zn is equal to RT by NF ln of Zn2 plus upon Fe2 plus. So E cell will be equal to minus 0.44 minus 0.76 minus 0.0592 upon 2. So RT by F comes out to be 0.0592, and number of electrons involved in the reaction is 2. So E cell will be equal to 0.32 minus 0.0592 upon 2 is equal log Zn2 plus upon Fe2 plus. So this will be equal to 0.5 because E cell is given 0.5. So now we calculate Zn2 plus upon Fe2 plus. So this comes out to be 1.2 into 10 raised to power 6. Question number 29. The divergence of vector field x cube plus y cube I cap plus 3xy square j cap plus 3z y square k cap is. So divergence of f is del f1 upon del x plus del f2 upon del y plus del f3 upon del z. So divergence of f will be equal to derivative of x cube plus y cube with respect to x will be equal to 3x square, and derivative of 3xy square with respect to y will be equal to 6xy, and derivative of 3zy square with respect to z will be equal to 3y square. So this will be equal to 3 times x square plus 2y plus y square is equal to x square plus 2y plus y square. We can write it as x plus y whole square. So the correct answer is 3 times x plus y whole square. So the correct answer is option D. Question number 30. Match the products in column 1 with manufacturing process in column 2nd. So blades of a gas turbine, these are made by investment casting, and seamless tubing is tubing. Then normally tubing is always by extrusion, and automotive cylinder blocks. So since these are cylinder blocks, so these are made by sand casting because for these will undergo dampening or vibration. So these are generally produced by sand casting, and tungsten cylinder blocks. So these are generally made of by powder metallurgy and wire drawing process. So the correct option is D. Now question number 31. Fx is equal to x ln x plus 1 minus x ln of 1 minus x plus 3x 1 minus x has at x equal to 0.5. So we have to calculate dy by dx. So dy by dx comes out to be 1, dy by dx comes out to be x into 1 by x, first function into derivative of second, plus second function into derivative of first. So x into 1 by x plus ln x into 1 plus 1 minus x into 1 upon 1 minus x into minus 1 plus ln 1 minus x into minus 1, because derivative of 1 minus x will be minus 1, and then 3x into minus 1 plus 1 minus x into 3. So this comes out to be ln x minus ln of 1 minus x plus 3 times 3 plus 3 minus 6x. So dy by dx will be equal to 0 at x equal to 0.5, because here it will be ln 0.5 minus ln of 0.5 plus 3 in 3 minus 6 into 0.5. So 3 minus 3, this will be equal to 0. So dy by dx will be equal to 0 at x equal to 0.5. Now we have to calculate d2y upon dx square. So this will come out to be 1 upon x plus 1 upon 1 minus x minus 6. So this comes out to be minus 4 at x equal to 0.5. So maxima, so dy by dx is uh, negative. So maxima at x equal to 0.5. So option B is correct. Question number 32. Match the process in column 1 with the most appropriate mechanism in column 2nd. So blast furnace iron making. So generally in this carbothermic reduction happen. I will discuss in the later slide. Paul Herold's process. Generally fused salt electrolysis is involved in this process, and basic oxygen furnace steel making process. In this actually oxidation of impurities occur, and cross process basically metallothermic of reduction occurs in this process. So let's discuss one by one these processes. This is a blast iron making process. So in this, here coke and scrap and limestone is poured into this, and there is a cup and cone arrangement. So in this, there are various zones in which various reactions occur. At 230 degrees centigrade, 3 Fe2O3 plus CO giving you 2 Fe3O4 plus CO2, and at 410 degrees centigrade, Fe3O4 plus CO giving you 3 FeO plus CO2, and at 525 degrees centigrade, FeO plus CO giving you Fe plus CO2, and at 865 degrees centigrade, C plus CO2 giving you 2CO. This is also called a Woodward reaction, and limestone CaCO3 giving you CO plus CO2, and C plus CO2 giving you 2CO. So at this occurs at 945 degrees centigrade, and at 1125 degrees centigrade, CO plus SiO2 giving you CaSiO3 goes in slag, C plus CO2 giving you 2CO, and C plus O2 giving you CO2. So these are the main reactions involved. In this way, we can see that for blast furnace iron making, carbothermic reduction is there, because reduction is basically by carbon, basically by CO, but this comes from carbon. So carbothermic reactions involve reduction of metal oxide using carbon as reducing agent. These chemical reactions are conducted at temperatures of several hundred degrees Celsius. Such processes are applied for production of elemental forms of many elements. The ability of metals to participate in carbothermic reactions can be predicted from Elingen diagram. Carbothermic reactions produce carbon monoxide, sometimes carbon dioxide. The facility of these conversions is attributable to entropy of reaction. Two solids are involved in this. Metal oxide and carbon are converted to a new solid, that is metal, and a gas CO, the latter having high entropy. An example of carbothermic reaction is iron ore smelting. Many reactions are involved, but as we discussed in the later slide, but the simplified equation is usually shown as 2Fe2O3 plus 3C giving you 4Fe plus 3CO2. Therefore, blast furnace iron making process is related to carbothermic reduction. Now we will discuss Paul Herold's process. So this is basically for aluminum. So alumina reacts with the cryolite. So Na3Al F6 is called cryolite. So Al2O3 will react with um, four ions of AlF6 3 minus, giving you 3 Al2O F6 2 minus plus 6 F minus at cathode. AlF6 3 minus plus 3 electron, giving you Al plus 6 F minus, and at anode 2 Al2 O F6 2 minus plus 12 F minus plus carbon, giving you 4 Al F6 3 minus plus CO2 plus 4 electron. The overall cell reaction is Al2O3 plus 3 carbon, giving you 4 aluminium plus 3 CO2. The Hor-Helmholtz process is smelting of aluminium. It involves dissolving alumina obtained from bauxite. Bauxite is Al2O3. Okay, this is aluminium's most important ore, and this is done through Bayer's process. In the Holt-Hérold process, this is done in molten cryolite. The cryolite is Na3Al F6, and electrolyzing the molten salt bath, typically in purpose-built cell. The Holt-Hérold process happens at 940 to 980 degrees centigrade and produces 99.5 to 99.8% pure aluminum. Pure cryolite has a melting point of 1009 degrees centigrade with a small percentage of alumina dissolved in it. Its melting point drops to about 1000 degrees centigrade. Besides having a relatively low melting point, cryolite is used as an electrolyte because, among other things, it also dissolves alumina well and conducts electricity, dissociates electrolytically at higher voltage than alumina, and also has a lower density than aluminum at temperatures required by electrolysis. AlF3 is usually added to the electrolyte. The ratio NaF and AlF3 is called cryolite ratio, and it is 3 in pure cryolite. In industrial production, AlF3 is added so that the cryolite ratio is 2 to 3 to further reduce the melting point so that the electrolysis can happen at temperatures between 940 to 980 degrees centigrade. The density of the liquid aluminum is 2.3 gram per ml at temperature between 950 to 1000 degrees centigrade, and density of the electrolyte should be less than 2.1 gram per ml so that the molten aluminum separates from electrolyte and settles properly to the bottom of electrolysis cell. In addition to AlF3, other additives like lithium fluoride may be added to alter different properties, melting point, density, conductivity, etc. of the electrolyte. The mixture is electrolyzed by passing a low voltage under 5 volt direct current at 100 to 300 kiloampere through it. This causes liquid aluminum metal to be deposited at cathode, while the oxygen from alumina combines with carbon from anode to produce mostly carbon dioxide. So Hall-Hérold's process is an example of fused salt electrolysis. Now basic oxygen furnace steel making, BOF steel making. So in this steel making, it is the process of producing steel from iron ore and scrap. In steelmaking, impurities such as nitrogen, silicon, phosphorus, sulfur, and excess carbon, most important impurity, are removed from sourced iron, and alloying elements such as manganese, nickel, chromium, carbon, and vanadium are added to produce different grades of steels. BOF steelmaking, also known as Linge Donawitz steelmaking, or the oxygen converter process, is a method of primary steelmaking in which carbon-rich molten pig iron is made into steel. Blowing oxygen through molten pig iron lowers carbon content of alloy and changes it into low carbon steel. The process is known as basic because fluxes of burnt lime or dolomite, which are chemical bases, are added to promote the removal of impurities and protect the lining of the converter. So you can see here this diagram of BOF furnace. Here molten iron, steel scrap and lime dolomite is added in this, and oxygen lance is here. So oxygen is lanced, pure oxygen lance is there. This is steel at the bottom, slag just above the steel. So here we can take out BOF slag, and here we can take out steel. Now Kroll's process. Kroll's process is a pyrometallurgical industrial process used to produce metallic titanium from titanium tetrachloride (TiCl4). The Kroll's process replaced the Hunter process for almost all commercial production. In Kroll's process, the TiCl4 is reduced by liquid magnesium to give titanium metal TiCl4 plus 2 Mg, giving you Ti plus 2 Mg Cl2. The reduction is conducted at 800 to 850 degrees centigrade in a stainless steel retort. Complications result from partial reduction of TiCl4, giving to lower chlorides TiCl2 and TiCl3. MgCl2 can be further refined back to magnesium. The resulting porous metallic titanium sponge is purified by leaching or vacuum distillation. The sponge is crushed and pressed before it is melted in a consumable carbon electrode vacuum arc furnace. The melted ingot is allowed to solidify under vacuum. It is often remelted to remove inclusions and ensure uniformity. These melting steps add to cost of product. In Hunter process, which is not commercial, the TiCl4 from chloride process is reduced to metal by sodium. So in Hunter process it is by sodium, and in Kroll's process it is by magnesium. Therefore, the Kroll's process is a metallothermic reduction. So we have now discussed the four processes involved in the question. Now question number 33, match the reactions in column 1 with corresponding products in column 2. So 4x is related to hot metal or pig iron, and Midrex is related to sponge iron because sponge iron is produced in this process, and the flash smelting reactor is related to copper matte because copper matte is the product, and Summers are furnace is for ferrochrome. So option C is correct. Now we will discuss these four processes. 4x process. So 4x process is a smelting reduction process created by Siemens as a more environmental friendly alternative to blast furnace. Presently, the majority of steel production is through blast furnace, which has to rely on ever decreasing amount of coking coal. That is the coal which has been cooked in order to remove impurities so that it is superior to coal. In addition, blast furnace requires a sinter plant to in order to prepare the iron ore for reduction. Unlike the blast furnace, smelting reduction processes are typical smaller and use coal and oxygen directly to reduce iron ore into a usable product. Smelting reduction processes come in two basic varieties: two stage or single stage. In single stage system, the iron ore is both reduced and melted in same container. Meanwhile, in two-stage process like 4x, the ore is reduced in one shaft and melted and purified in another. So here, unlike in blast furnace, here we have this two chambers. So in 4x process, so in this actually there is only there is this difference that in blast furnace we use coking coal, and in 4x process we directly use coal. Now Midrex process. So Midrex process, so this is for DRI, direct reduced iron or sponge iron, is produced from direct reduction of iron ore in the forms of lumps, pellets, or fines to iron by reducing or elemental carbon produced from natural gas or coal. Many ores are suitable for direct reduction. Direct reduction refers to solid state process which reduce iron oxide to metallic iron at temperature below melting point of iron. Reduced iron derives its name from these processes. One example being heating iron ore in a furnace at high temperature of 800 to 1200 degrees centigrade in presence of reducing gas, a mixture of hydrogen and carbon monoxide. So we use natural gas, hydrogen and carbon monoxide to reduce iron oxide. So we get a sponge iron. So Midrex process is related to sponge iron. This is the typical diagram you can see. Now flash smelting reactor. Flash smelting or flame smelting is a smelting process for sulfur containing ores including chalcopyrite. Chalcopyrite is a copper ore. The process was developed by Outokumpu in Finland and first applied at Harjavalta plant in 1949 for smelting copper ore. The reactions in flash smelting furnace produce copper matte. You can see here copper matte is produced here, and iron oxide and sulfur dioxide. The reacted particles fall into a bath at the bottom of the furnace where iron oxide reacts with fluxes such as silica limestone to produce slag. Here you can see slag is there. Submerged arc furnace. In submerged arc furnace, ore and reducing agent are fed to the furnace continuously from top so that the electrodes are buried in the mixture and arc is submerged. The furnace is named submerged arc furnace, submerged arc furnace since the arc is submerged. The most common physical arrangement consists of a circular bath with three vertical electrodes. These are three vertical electrodes arranged in a triangle. Six electrode furnace with circular or rectangular bars are also used, but they are less common. The application areas for SAF include production of ferrochrome, ferronickel, ferromanganese, silicomanganese, ferroniobium, ilmenite TiO2 slag, as well as potential for waste recycling. So this is submerged arc furnace, and this is used for production of ferrochrome. Now next question, X-ray diffraction pattern from a elemental metal with a FCC crystal structure shows first peak at Bragg angle theta is equal to 24.65 degree. The latest parameter of this metal is. given lambda is equal to 0.1543 nanometer. So as we know Bragg's law, 2d sine theta is equal to n lambda, we can distinguish primitive and BCC and FCC lattices from the spacings of their innermost 7 allowed reflections. So for primitive, uh, any HKL is allowed. So first 7 is 100, 110, 111, 200, 210, 211, 220. So there is no restriction on HKL, and you can see here that it's a sequence. This h square plus k square plus l square is 1 here, h square plus k square plus l square is 2 here, h square plus k square plus l square is 3 here, and h square plus k square plus l square here is 4, and here 5 and 6, and this is 4, 4, 8. Okay. And for BCC 110, 200, 211, 220, 310, 222, 321, etc. So in this for BCC H plus, the condition is H plus K plus L is equal to even. So you see here 1 plus 1 plus 0 is 2. 2 is even. If you see this 3 to 1, then 3 plus 2 plus 1 is even. Okay, 6 is even. So for any you can check, and for FCC allowed are 111, 111, 200, 220. HKL either all odd or all even. So 111 all odd and 200 all even, 220 is all even. Now we can see that for primitive we only need to measure the 3 innermost reflections, but to distinguish between primitive and BCC we really need all 7. As we can see in this question, for first peak corresponds to uh, for FCC 111, so 111 plane. So 2d sine theta is equal to n lambda. Now d is a upon under root of h square plus k square plus l square. So 2 into a upon under root of h square plus k square plus l square sine theta is equal to n lambda. Now 2 into a upon under root of 1 square plus 1 square plus 1 square sine 24.65 is equal to n is 1 and the lambda is 0.1543. So this we can calculate a from here. So a comes out to be 0.32 nanometers. So option C is correct. Question number 35. Match the materials in column 1 with column second. So gray iron application is in base structure of heavy machines to actually it absorbs the vibration. So gray iron is used in base structure of heavy machines, and ductile iron is used in walls and pump bodies, and zircaloy or zirconium alloy is used in cladding for uranium fuel in nuclear reactor, and beryllium copper alloy is used in Z jet aircraft landing gear bearing. So the correct option is D. Question number 36. The magnesium SN MgSN phase diagram exhibits two eutectics on either side of high melting intermetallic line compound Mg2SN as given below. So there are two eutectic reactions in this: liquid giving you alpha plus Mg2SN and liquid giving you beta plus Mg2SN. Now, liquid composition is giving 36.9% SN, alpha is given 14.48% of SN, and Mg2SN we can calculate actually because it is in the ratio of like a percentage. SN is 1 by 3 mole percentage. Okay, like so 33%, like 0.33 moles in 1 mole of Mg2SN. So we can calculate what the percentage here. Now liquid giving you beta plus Sn. So liquid percentage is 97.87% of Sn, and beta is 100%, almost 100% Sn, and Mg2 Sn. After eutectic reaction has gone to completion, the equilibrium has been attained at a temperature just below 561. So 561. So this reaction we are talking about, the first eutectic reaction, and the amount of eutectic constituent present in the alloy Mg 50 weight percent Sn is approximately, given atomic weight of Sn is 118.7 and Mg is 24.3. So this is typical Mg Sn diagram. So here is 0% Sn. Here is actually the diagram here is in mole percent, but we will convert it to weight percent. So here this is 561 degree. So liquid giving you alpha plus Mg to Sn. So Mg to Sn is in here. Mg to Sn line is this, and liquid giving you alpha plus Mg to Sn. So alpha is here. Okay. So we are operating just below this eutectic line, and at 50%. So 50% of Sn from somewhere here. So this is 100% eutectic, and this is how much this is. This is no, we have to calculate this Mg to Sn. We have to calculate. So Mg to Sn has 2 moles of Mg in and 1 mole of Sn. So this means 2 into 20 2 into 24.3 gram of Mg and 118.7 gram of Sn in 1 mole of Mg to Sn. So percentage of Sn in Mg to Sn will be equal to 118.7 divided by 2 into 24.3 plus 118.7 into 100. This will be equal to 70.95% of Sn in Mg to Sn. Okay, so this is around 70.95% of Sn. Now we are asking at 50%, so somewhere here, and this is eutectic is around 36.9. So at 36.9, this is 100% eutectic composition. So percentage eutectic composition at 50% will be equal to this lever rule, this arm divided by total arm. So this is around 70.95. So 70.95 minus 50 divided by 70.95 minus 36.9 into 100. So this comes out to be 61.53. So around 62%. So option C is correct. Question number 37. Determine the correctness or otherwise of the following assertion and the reason. Low alloy steel used for medium temperature creep resistance has often have additions of strong carbide forming elements, and reason is during creep deformation the particles with higher misfit with matrix lose coherency. So basically the precipitation of MO2C is usually seen to be the major factor in conferring creep resistance on low alloy ferritic steels. Carbide formers such as vanadium, niobium, and titanium may also be added for precipitation, strengthening, and grain refinement. And creep resistance generally needs coarse grains or dispersed whites. Low alloy steels used for medium temperature creep resistance often have additions of strong carbide forming elements for precipitation, strengthening, and grain refinement. So the assertion is correct. And during creep deformation, particles with higher misfit with matrix lose coherency. So the reason is also correct, but reason is not correct explanation of assertion. So option B is correct. Determine the correctness or otherwise the following assertion. So assertion is rate of homogenization in a dilute solid dilute substitution solid solution of B in A is controlled by diffusivity of B, and reason is given. Atomic migration cannot occur along the dislocation and grain boundaries. So actually the rate of homogenization in dilute alloys is controlled by how fast solute B atoms can diffuse. Indeed, the only way homogenization can be achieved is by the migration of B atoms into solute depleted regions. So atomic migration can occur along dislocations and grains. So adjacent is true, but reason is false, because in reason it's written atomic migration cannot occur along dislocation and involuntary, but atomic migration can occur along with dislocation and involuntary. So reason itself is false. So correct option is D. Question number 39. So we have in column 1 element, and in column 2 electronic behavior is given. So we have copper. Copper is diamagnetic, and iron is ferromagnetic, and mercury is superconducting, and silicon is semiconducting. So we will discuss what is ferromagnetic, diamagnetic. So in ferromagnetic, all spins align parallel to one another. Spontaneous magnetization M is equal to A plus V. So we have this. So in ferromagnetic, all spins are in same directions parallel. Okay. So example is FeCuNi GD DySmCO5 FSM2CO27 ND2 Fe24B 14B 424B. So and paramagnetic. So most spins parallel to one another. Some spins anti-parallel and spontaneous magnetization. So M is equal to A minus B. So in ferromagnetic, actually, there are these are also parallel, but some are anti some are of just opposite direction. So magnetism is A minus B greater than 0. So this is in like Fe3O4, yttrium, iron, garnet, GdCO5, and antiferromagnetic. So these are equal and opposite. Okay, so periodic parallel and anti-parallel spin distribution M is equal to A minus B equal to 0. So this occurs in chromium, Fem, and NiU. And paramagnetic spins tend to align parallel to an external field. So initially without field they are randomly distributed, but if we apply field then they align itself in the direction of the field. So this is in case of oxygen, sodium, aluminum, calcium, uranium. And diamagnetic spins tend to align anti-parallel to a external magnetic field. So initially when there is no field, um, there is no like a spin available, but if we apply a field then they will be directed, the spin will be directed in opposite to the direction of the field. So this is diamagnetic. So this occurs in superconductors, nitrogen, copper, silver, gold, water, organic compounds. Question number 40. Radius of largest interstitial atom that can be accommodated in octahedral void in BCCRN without distorting the lattice is, so R void upon R atom for octahedral void is 0.155 for BCC. So for BCC, 4R is equal to A root 2, and but it is not required in this. So 4R is equal to A root 3. 4R is equal to A root 3 is not required here. Just R void divided by R atom is equal to 0.155. So R void is equal to 0.155 into R atom. R atom is given here as 0.124. So we multiply 0.155 into 0.124. So this gives us R void is equal to 0.019 nanometer. Question number 41. The production process of cylindrical pipes results in a statistical scatter in their diameter, which is modeled by a normal distribution with a mean value of 10 mm. If the area under the normal curve between 9 mm and 10 mm is 0.35, then the probability of producing pipes of diameter greater than 11 mm is. So we have been given mean mu is equal to 10 mm. Area under the curve between 9 mm and 10 mm is 0.35, that is 35% of the total area. Since in this normal distribution for mu uh, between mu and mu plus sigma and mu minus sigma. So between mu and mu plus sigma, this is 34.1%, and between mu and mu minus sigma, this is 34.1% area. So this is roughly 35%. So we can see it between 9 and 10, and here it is between mu and mu minus sigma. So this means that this sigma is equal to 1 mm. Okay. Now probability of producing pipes of diameter greater than 11 mm. So greater than 11 mm, this means here it is 10 mm, here it is 11 mm. Okay. So this is mu, and this is mu plus sigma. Okay. And this is mu is 10, and the mu plus sigma is this. So after mu plus sigma they are asking. So after mu plus sigma, from between mu plus sigma to mu plus 2 sigma, this is 13.6%, and between mu plus 2 sigma to mu plus 3 sigma, this is 2.1%, and the rest is 0.1%. So total is 15.8%, or we can write 0.158 approximately. The solution using question number 42. The solution using trapezoidal rule of an integral integration 0 to 1 e raised to power minus x square dx. So by dividing the range 0 to 1 into 2 equals our intervals is. So we divide range 0 to 1 into 2 equals our intervals, means 0 to 0.5 and 0.5 to 1. So h is here is 0.5. So the trapezoidal rule h by 2 y0 plus y1 plus h by 2 y1 plus y2. So this will be equal to h by 2 y0 plus 2 y1 plus y2. So this will be equal to 0.5 by 2 into 1 plus 2 into 0.778 plus 0.368 is equal to 0.73. Here we have calculated e raised to power minus x square for different values of x like 0.5 and 1. So this we can put here and we get the answer. Question number 43. Iron is corroding in fresh water which has dissolved oxygen concentration of 15 millimolar. The anodic current density at an hour potential of 120 millivolt is in ampere per centimeter square. Now, anodic Tefl plot is given 0.06 volt, and diffusion coefficient of oxygen is given 2.42 into 10 to the power minus 5 centimeter square per second. Now, diffusion layer thickness is given 0.06 centimeters. So this is a typical Tefl plot. Here we have over voltage versus um, here we have potential versus current density. So this is the anodic branch, this is the cathodic branch. If we plot a tangent on the anodic branch and cathodic branch, then this where it cuts, it is I core, and this is E core. Okay, so this we can write also as I0. So exchange current density, or limiting current. So now C0 is given 0.015 mole. So this we can write it as 0.015 mole per liter. Now 1 liter is 1 decimeter cube. So this we can write 1.5 into 10 to the power minus 5 mole per centimeter cube. Now anodic current density at over potential of 120 millivolt IA, I anodic is equal to question mark, and the Tefl slope of beta is equal to 0.06 volt. This is 60 millivolt, and the diffusion coefficient of oxygen D is equal to 2.42 into 10 to the power minus 5 centimeter square per second, and diffusion layer thickness delta C is given 0.06 centimeter. Now If we see the cathodic and anodic reactions, cathodic reaction is O2 plus 2H2O plus 4 electron giving you 4OH minus, and anodic reaction is Fe giving you Fe3 plus 3 electron. Okay, now I oxygen will be equal to uh, I naught, or limiting current for oxygen reduction will be equal to ZFD C naught upon delta C. This comes from diffusion law. Z is equal to minus D del C upon del X. So del C upon del X. So C0 upon del X is delta thickness layer, and D is the diffusion coefficient. And if we multiply the flux with the Faraday constant, so this will give you the number of um, the charge transferred in number of Faradays. Okay, so this will give you the current. So basically, ZF multiplied by the flux that is calculated by fixed diffusion laws minus d del C upon del X. So this gives you I0 is equal to ZFD C0 upon delta C. So Z number of electrons involved in cathodic reaction, O2 plus 2H2O plus 4 electron giving you 4OH minus. So Z is 4, and F is 96,500 coulomb per gram equivalent, and D is 2.42 into 10 to the power minus 5 centimeters square per second, and C0 is given 1.5 into 10 to the power minus 5 mole per centimeter cube, and delta C is given 0.06 centimeters. So I naught, or limiting current density, uh, comes out to be 0.233 into 10 to the power minus 2 ampere per centimeter square. Now, if we see the Duffel plot, then if we plot a tangent, so let's say this is log I0 and this is, let's say, log I. So now on if we calculate the slope, this the difference in Y gives you the over voltage, and difference in X gives you log I minus log I naught. So this will be equal to log 10 I upon I naught. Okay, and multiplied by slope will be equal to the over voltage. So eta will be equal to plus minus beta log 10 I upon I0. This plus minus gives you sign for anodic or cathodic reaction. So let's say we take for anodic. So eta is equal to beta A log 10 Ia upon I0. Eta is equal to beta A log 10 Ia upon I0. Now eta is given 120 and beta A is given 60 milli. Mind you that beta can be in millivolts or it can be in different units, and so we have to take as per the question. So it is 60 millivolts. So log 10 Ia upon I0 is 0.233 into 10 to the minus 2. So Ia comes out to be 0.233 ampere per centimeter square. So this is the correct answer. Question number 44. A metal oxidizes at 1200 Kelvin with a parabolic rate constant of 3 into 10 to the power minus 6 gram square centimeter raised to power minus 4 second raised to power minus 1. Time taken for oxide film to grow to a thickness of 2 micrometer is. Density of the oxide is given 6.5 gram per centimeter cube. So when an oxide is known porous and adheres to the metal surface, the rate of layer growth is controlled by ionic diffusion, and a parabolic relationship exists between the weight gain per unit area W and the time as follows. W square is equal to K1T plus K2. In oxidation of metals for which the scale is porous or flex off, for that means for filling Whitworth ratio less than 1 or greater than 2, then the oxidation rate expression is linear, that is W is equal to K3T plus K2. And the third reaction rate law has been observed for very thin oxide layers, generally thickness less than 100 nanometer, that is around 1000 angstrom, that form at relatively low temperatures. The dependence of the weight gain on time is logarithmic. So W is equal to K4 log K5T plus K6. So for our question, W square is equal to KT parabolic rate law. So W square will be equal to K is 3 into 10 is to the minus 6 gram square centimeter is to the minus 4 second inverse into T, and rho is equal to W by T is equal to W upon W by V volume. So okay, so W upon volume is thickness into area. Area we can take 1, so 2 into 10 is to the power minus 4 centimeter is the thickness into density 6.5 into 10, gram in per centimeter cube, and the whole square. So this W square will be equal to K into T. So T comes out to be 0.56 second. Question number 45. Two plates of composition Fe 10% Ni, Fe 20% Cr and 5% Ni are fusion welded using a filler rod of composition 20% Ni, 80% chromium. Contribution to dilution of weld pool is 20% from each plate. Now the nickel content in the weld pool is in percentage. So A plate has 10% nickel and B plate has 5% nickel and filler rod has 20% nickel. Contribution to dilution of weld pool is 20% from each plate. So it is 20%. So 0.20 into 0.10 is the nickel percent plus 0.20 into 0.05 is the nickel percent plus 0.60. So 20% from each place and 40% from the filler. So 40% from total from both plates and 60% from the filler. So 0.60 into 0.20. So this comes out to be 15%. Question number 46. The figure shows schematic of venturi meter. The cross sectional area is 100 millimeter square at A and is 50 millimeter squares at B. If air is flowing through venturi meter at a flow rate of 10 to the minus 3 meter cube per second, height h in air over water manometer in mm is incompressible flow with no frictional losses is assumed, and density of air is 1 kilogram per meter cube and density of water is 1000 kilogram per meter cube, and G is given as 9.8 meter per second square. So we apply Bernoulli's theorem at point A and point B. So P1 upon rho 1 G, P1 upon rho G plus P1 square upon 2G plus Z1. Z1 is pressure. This is the position head. So this will be equal to P2 upon rho G plus V2 square upon 2G plus Z2. So Z1 is equal to Z2 because the height is same for this venturi meter. So P1 upon rho G plus V1 square upon 2G will be equal to P2 upon rho G plus V2 square upon 2G. Now P1 minus P2 upon rho G will be equal to V2 square minus V1 square upon 2G. Now P1 minus P2 is HD water into G divided by HDG. This is you can see in this black part is in water. So HDG is the pressure difference between point A and B, and D here is D of water into G upon rho air into G is equal to V2 square minus V1 square upon 2G. Now A1 V1 equal to A2 V2. So A1 is 100 and A2 is 50. So this comes out to V1 is equal to V2. Now if we calculate A1 V1, that is the actually the volumetric flow rate, this meter cube per second is given. So A1 V1 is in meter cube per second because area is meter square and V is meter per second. So meter cube per second. So 100 V1 we have calculated in mm per second. So this is here. So this is 10. So 100 V1 is given as 10 raised to power minus 3 into, and meter we convert into millimeters, so 10 raised to power 3 cube. So V1 comes out to be 10 raised to power 4 millimeter per second. Now from here, hd water upon rho air is equal to, this is v2 square is, so 2v1, so 4v1 square minus v1 square upon 2g, so this will be equal to 3v1 square upon 2g. So h into d watt is 1000 divided by 1 is equal to 3 into 10 to power 2, because here 10 to power 4 millimeter per second, so 10 meter per second, so 10 square divided by 2 into 9.8, so h is equal to 0.0153 meter is equal to 15.3 millimeter. Now for question number 47, for effective communication in a ball mill, it is desired that while traveling along mill wall, leave the wall at point C and the travel freely in air along path CDA as shown in figure. Now the angle BOC is given 120 degree, and the rotation speed omega is we have to find out. So at this point, centrifugal force mv square by r will be equal to this normal reaction. Now this will be mg. So if this angle is alpha, then it will be equal to mg cos alpha. So mv square by r will be equal to mg cos alpha, where alpha here is 60 degree, and v square will be equal to rg cos alpha, and v equal to r omega. So r omega square is equal to rg cos alpha. So omega is equal to g cos alpha upon r. Omega equal to 2 pi n upon 60 is equal to under root g cos alpha upon r. Now g is we can put pi square. Pi square is 9.86, just to calculate. So n will be equal to 30 cos alpha upon r. So this will be equal to 30 upon root d. This will be equal to 30 upon under root of 3.26 will be equal to 16.6 rpm. Question number 48. If the liquid copper is cooled to 1350 Kelvin, the magnitude of driving force for liquid to transform to solid is in joule per mole. We have to calculate the given. It is given that melting temperature and enthalpy of melting of copper are 1356 Kelvin and 13 kilojoule per mole respectively. Now at melting point, delta G fusion is equal to delta H fusion minus T delta S fusion. So delta S can be equated to delta S fusion divided by delta H fusion upon T fusion. Why this is so? Because entropy and enthalpy increases with temperature, and however at higher temperatures a certain amount of heat added to the system causes a smaller change in entropy or enthalpy than the same amount of heat at lower temperatures. So actually delta G can is equal to delta H minus T delta S. Now delta S we can write it as delta HF, and delta S we can write it as delta SF. Now delta SF minus T delta SF will be equal to delta HF minus T into delta SF. We can write delta H upon DF. So we take the delta HF common out. We can take it out, and in the bracket we have 1 minus T upon TF. So we put delta HF as 13,000 into 1 minus T is 1353 divided by TF is 1356. So this comes out to be 28.8 joule per mole. Question number 49. 1000 kilogram of liquid steel containing 0.03 weight percent of sulfur needs to be desulfurized using slag to bring the sulfur content down to 0.01 weight percent. Quantity of slag needed in kilogram. So assume thermodynamic equilibrium and no sulfur in slag prior to desulfurization treatment, given the equilibrium sulfur partition ratio between slag and steel. Weight percent of sulfur in slag divided by weight percent of sulfur in steel is equal to 50. So weight percent of sulfur divided by weight percent of weight percent of sulfur in slag divided by weight percent of sulfur in steel is equal to 50. Now initial content of sulfur will be equal to 0.3% of 1000 kilogram. This will be equal to 0.3 kilogram. So out of this 0.3 kilogram, only 0.015 kilogram, only 0.15 kilogram is in the steel, and remaining 0.15 kilogram goes into the slag. Now weight of the sulfur in slag at equilibrium will be equal to 0.15 kilogram. Now weight percent of sulfur in slag will be equal to 0.15, that is the weight of the sulfur divided by, now let us say weight of the slag is x, so x plus this sulfur 0.15. So this we can calculate the percentage. Now weight percent of sulfur in steel will be equal to, now in steel remaining sulfur is 0.15 divided by 1000 kilogram was there, minus 0.15 kilogram sulfur has gone to slag. So this ratio is equal to 50. So x comes out to be 19.847 kilogram. Now question number 50. Zone defining of silicon results in residual phosphorus content of 0.1 parts per billion by weight. The electrical conductivity of this zone defined silicon is in mho per meter. Avogadro number is 6.02 into 10 to the power 23. Density of silicon is 2.33 gram per centimeter cube, and atomic weight of phosphorus is 30.97, and charge of electron is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 ampere per second, ampere into second, that is coulomb, and mobility of electron is 0.2 meter square per volt per second. So as we know that electrical conductivity sigma is equal to mu e n e. So here phosphorus, so phosphorus has 5 valency and silicon has 4 valency. So when we have phosphorus, that means it is n type. So sigma will be given by mu e and e. Now mu is 0.2 meter square per volt per second. E is equal to 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 ampere second, and Ne will be equal to 0.1 parts per billion. So into 10 to the power minus 9, because it's per billion. Now this is in gram of phosphorus divided by 1 gram of silicon. Okay, so we change it to this gram into moles, so divided by atomic weight of phosphorus, and this 1 gram of silicon we convert it into divide by density, so convert it into volume, so because we need it in per meter cube. Okay, so because this Ne generally expressed number of electrons per meter cube, right? So number of number of n type, there is n type and p type interest. So so this will be equal to and we this is in moles, so we multiply it by Avogadro number, so this atoms per meter cube. Okay, so this comes out to be 0.2 into 1.6 into 10 to the minus 9, and this is in Ne, is in per meter cube, so sigma comes out to be 0.145. Question number 51. The steady state creep rate of a material increases by a factor of 20 when the temperature is increased from 890 Kelvin to 980 Kelvin. The creep rate at a temperature of, we have to determine that this temperature will be 5 times the creep rate at 890 Kelvin. Now we know that creep rate d epsilon upon dt is equal to C sigma raised to power m upon d raised to power b e raised to power minus q upon kt. Okay, so this means that creep rate is directly proportional to e raised to power minus q upon kt. Now this increases 20 times, so 20 is equal to e raised to power minus q upon k 980 divided by e raised to power minus q upon k 890, and this is 5. This increases by a factor of 5 is equal to e raised to power minus q upon kt divided by e raised to power minus q upon k into 890. Now we solve it by taking log, and the temperature comes out to be 936 Kelvin. Question number 52. Crack growth is being continuously measured in a test specimen subjected to constant amplitude cyclic stress with a mean stress of 0. The crack growth is related to stress intensity range delta K as dA upon dN directly proportional to delta K Q, where A is the crack length and N is the number of cycles. When the crack length increases by a factor of 2, the crack growth rate will increase by a factor of. Now we know that delta K is equal to sigma. So here actually k is equal to delta k. K is equal to sigma under root pi a. So delta k will be equal to delta sigma into under root pi a. So delta k will be directly proportional to a raised to power 1 by 2. Now dA upon dA, dA upon dN will be directly proportional to a raised to power 3 by 2. So dA upon dL dN will increase by a factor of 2 raised to power 3 by 2. So this is 2 root 2, that is 2 into 1.414, that is equal to 2.828. So question number 53, in a top gated mold, liquid metal enters the mold cavity as a free falling stream under gravity from a height of 0.5 meter. Ignore the fluid friction due to viscosity and drag due to changes in direction of flow. If the volume of mold cavity is 10 meter cube, then the time required to fill the mold is, so time required will be equal to volume divided by the flow rate. So flow rate is A into V1, A into V. So A into velocity is A into under root 2 GS. So V upon A into under root 2 GH. So this will be equal to T is equal to 10 upon 0.2 under root of 2 into 9.8 into 0.5. This will be equal to 15.97 second, will be equal to 16 second. A basic question number 54. A basic oxygen furnace operator at the end of oxygen blow measures the dissolved oxygen content in the steel as 0.03 weight% and the steel temperature at 1800 Kelvin. The carbon content in the steel is in percentage weight%. Assume equilibrium between dissolved carbon and dissolved oxygen and CO gas at 1 atmosphere. Henry's law is valid for both carbon and oxygen. Now, given carbon weight 1 weight% of Henry at 1 weight% Henryan standard state plus oxygen 1 weight% Henryan standard state is equal to CO1 atmosphere standard state. So delta G is given minus 19,840 minus 40.65 T joule. So we put temperature in this, so we get delta G is equal to minus 93,010 is equal to minus RT ln K. So K comes out to be from here 497.7 is equal to PCO divided by HC into HO. Now HC and HO is weight per, and it can be equal to weight% of carbon and weight% of oxygen. So weight% of carbon is comes out to be 1 upon 497.7 into 0.03. This comes out to be 0.067. Now question number 55. M and N are 3 by 3 matrices. If determinant of M is minus 9 and determinant of N is minus 14, then determinant of N into M will be equal to determinant of N into determinant of M will be equal to minus 14 into minus 9. This will be equal to 126. So thank you for your attention.